Hello, everybody, and welcome to Paws podcast with myself, Spooner Sloth, and my cohort, HB Fox. Fox, my man, how the hell are you doing today, dude?
I'm all right. I'm a little tired. You might be able to hear it in my voice. It's not because I'm exhausted or anything, although I am. It's because I literally got up out of bed like 30 minutes ago.
Right.
Because I'm a trash person.
Dude, you know what? You're not a trash person. You're not, but you're living like you're like a teenager.
I have a trash schedule. Let's put it
Right.
that way.
Okay. There you go. I was gonna say you're like the teenager on summer vacation schedule. It's like I'm up by the crack
If I
of
was
2.
on that schedule, I'd probably still be in bed. I'd be in bed for another like 4 hours. Are you kidding?
The sun went down. Time to get up. Right?
Pretty much.
Anyway, well, you sound fabulous. You look fabulous.
Well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fucking. I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat, man. It's weird because my 3 daughters are now in 3 different schools. So I got one in elementary, one in middle who just started middle, and then one in high school, who will be. She's a junior now, so it's like my schedule is kind of all over the place, and that led to the stream decision that I made earlier about no longer doing night streams because I can't be up as late as you guys are. As I can't do it anymore.
So, actually, kind of on that note, before we jump into the topic for today,
Yeah.
how about we take a moment to really introduce ourselves, since we haven't touched on that too much. You mentioned you made a stream decision, so you're obviously a broadcaster.
Yeah, I mean,
How long have you been broadcasting? What do you broadcast?
I broadcast video games. I have been streaming on Twitch since January of 2016. I've been doing it consistently. I think I've only ever taken time off of streaming more than like 2 or 3 days. Once because there was a stomach virus that went around the household. 2, for my 10-year wedding anniversary. And the 3rd time I actually took time off was TwitchCon. If you can even call that like time off, really. Yeah, and
it's time away. Let's put
right.
it
It's time away, but yeah, man. I just I've been doing the streaming thing. I've been a stay-at-home dad, and I got into casting simply because I have never really been good at anything in my life other than video games and talking to people and entertaining others and kind of working through that sort of thing. So when I gravitated towards Twitch, because I got tired of having the only other adult voice in the house being like, Nick Jr., Disney Channel, or whatever it was that my youngest was into at the time. And things have changed pretty dramatically. I would venture to say I have run the gamut from very, very bottom to very, very top of like smaller Twitch broadcasters. If you could even imagine what that spectrum looks like.
Well, that's the interesting thing about the platform is that spectrum itself changes fairly frequently now.
It's not. It used to be like when I first started up, I thought, oh man, I started too late, right? And that was like in 2016. In 2016, you're thinking, oh man, I missed the wave, but it was nothing. I had no idea. I don't think anybody had any idea, no matter how clairvoyant or future-proof or how good your business acumen as a entity on this platform, be it as a broadcaster or a community manager, anybody, like Twitch, the landscape changes. It's like fucking Hunger Games.
It does.
Every 2 months. And then out of nowhere, with no communication, Twitch is like, here's a new feature. And everything changes all over again.
That you mentioned a very key part of that, with no communication.
Right. And bless them, man. I'm sure it's not easy.
They're trying. They're trying.
Right.
But that communication, you got a few things to fix there.
But yeah, that's me. And otherwise, my name's Rick Suarez. I am Cuban American, and I'm 35 years old. And I don't really like long walks down by the beach. I prefer staying inside when it's snowing out because I'm Cuban American, and snow is still fucking magical to me. So there's that. How about you, man?
It's magical to me too, and I've been living in it my whole life.
True. So you're born and bred in Canada.
In Canada, yeah. I think I'm second generation Canadian. Most of my family is from Britain somewhere, scattered across Britain.
Right.
And a few Russians. We're not going to get into that.
No, no, he is legend. Yes.
So I always struggle to kind of define what I do in the space because I do a lot of different things. But mainly I'm a broadcast manager and have been for unofficially for like 3 to 4 years now. And I say unofficially because broadcast manager is a completely made up title that I decided on one day. And the reason I did that is because this position has not existed long enough to actually have a job title.
It is the official job title, though. I mean, that if you
Now
have
it
to
is,
title it,
yeah.
right, it's a description of what you do.
I like to think that I kind of coined the title in this space because previously people that do or have done what I did, though few and far between, have really, I guess, called themselves community managers, which is an aspect of the job, but it is most definitely not the entire job.
Right. Kind of like a head mod. I think
Yeah,
like way back in the day, it was just like the head mod, like the mod
exactly.
lead in like the big channels, you know, like Co and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And kind of outside of the broadcasting space, I've also done contract work for a small handful of game studios for one or two, excuse me, still getting over that cold.
Still with the phlegm. Damn, dude. No, you're good. No, just compose yourself.
This happened on Stream Scene on Monday. I was on the show on Stream Scene on Monday, and I'd be in the middle of this big tangent about something super important. Then I'd get all phlegmy and have to stop myself, and I'd completely lose track.
Yeah, and the brain's done.
And but yeah, moral of the story, I don't even have words anymore.
Well, we're not going to restart. I mean, we've done 4. This is the 4th episode now.
One take. We only ever do one take.
Only ever one take.
Moral of the story, I have about 4-ish years experience in the industry, directly in the industry. And as I'm sure most of you, years and years of experience kind of on the outskirts as a viewer or some sort of interactor with the industry.
About when did you actually start watching live streaming content versus, I mean, everybody's always watched YouTube videos or kind of looked up that stuff, but
it was back in the JTV days. I don't even remember who I watched. I didn't do it that religiously. It was just, something that I tuned into every once in a while. And I really started to watch Twitch frequently, almost daily, when Twitch Plays Pokemon became a thing.
Oh, when chat was controlling everything, that mess was
when
hilarious.
It first started up, because I am a massive Pokemon fan. I always have been, and I always will be. I'm not even going to go down the road of how much I've spent on my card collection. It's a little painful, but let's just say the worth is 5 digits.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's. I have no plans to sell them either. I love them too much.
No, just get buried with them. It's all good.
Yeah.
Be like a pharaoh.
Burn them when you burn me. They're mine and nobody else's. But that's when I first kind of found my way into the space as a regular, and from there it just kind of took off as it does.
I think the first broadcaster I ever saw was Towley, because I was into WoW at the time, and it was just kind of happenstance that we had a lot in common, just heritage, etc. And then after that, it was a broadcaster whose name I'm glad I forgot because it was a bit controversial. He was a Diablo 3 streamer, and he was in like a wheelchair, and that was part of his gimmick, and it was all a lie. It was all fake. And then he forgot to turn his camera off, stood up and just started walking around and doing stuff around the house, and his girlfriend freaked out when she realized he was still live and he hadn't ended the stream, and then he vanished. He vanished forever, and he's never been heard from again.
As he should.
Yeah, it was It was weird, but that was like a big wake up call kind of thing. It was like, oh man, so okay, this is all. Some people it's all a production. Okay, cool. And then, one thing led to another. Stopped being so much a viewer, and now I still watch Twitch. I mean, how much Twitch do you get to watch? Even though I've noticed it's like a trend, right? When you stream or you work in some capacity with broadcasting in general, or as a manager or anything like that, you don't really watch as much as you used to.
Yeah. I mean, most of my time is spent in Hunter's channel, the Hunter Wild, because I'm his manager, so it only makes sense. Outside of that, on an average day, I spend maybe an hour watching other broadcasters.
Oof.
It's just the problem with my particular situation is that Hunter streams 10 to 12 hours a day.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's it's impressive.
And that's almost every day. And I'm there from not from the start, because it usually starts before I wake up. But I'm there from the moment I wake up to the moment he ends his stream. So, that takes 10 hours of my day right there. Then we raid into somebody, and that's usually where I spend the next hour or two. And that's all I really have time for in my day for watching people. But this kind of leads me into another question that has to do with the topic we're going to discuss today.
Right.
So you mentioned who you started to really watch initially on Twitch, but whose community did you first get involved with on Twitch?
What do you mean by involved? Like the first, because I'll give you some context. I am what I would consider the breed of Twitch viewer, if you want to classify him like that. I lurk a lot. It is very rare for me to actually actively type and be more engaging as a viewer in Twitch chat. Mainly because whenever I'm usually watching something on Twitch, I am also playing a game, or I'm also doing a bajillion and one other things, and I'm usually in that stream because I'm checking out that game, or I want to support that particular broadcaster. If I'm friends with that person, or I'm friends with the cast, or whatever it is, then obviously I'll engage a lot more. But
So maybe in a case like yours, a better way for me to phrase the question would be, whose community or which broadcaster did you first support in a way outside of just viewership?
Oh, okay, and not specifically just subs, because the first,
Right.
I believe the first
Support
sub,
can take any form, which is why I made the note of saying outside of viewership, because viewership is absolutely a form of support.
Funny enough, it's only really been recently. It's only been, and by recent I mean, in the lifetime that I've been watching Twitch and streaming on Twitch and whatnot. I believe the first community that I really kind of dove in on was In Control. Jeff In Control Robinson. He is a big guy in StarCraft. He has a bulldog, and he used to be like a world champion StarCraft player, and he still does a lot of shoutcasting. There's a lot of shoutcasting and esports things for Blizzard. He's now started to do stuff for Games Workshop with Warhammer and Warhammer 40k and such. And it was the weirdest thing because I think I was streaming at the time, and I was playing XCOM, and he raided me, and I checked him out, and I really connected. So I just started hanging out in his chat on a regular basis, and I think he was my first sub, and I would just talk to people in the chat. I met up with his community manager, his main guy, Matt, or Cobra, at TwitchCon last year, and I really, really dig that community, the chat utopia. I dig that community a lot. It was just the way that he as a broadcaster articulates himself, the way that he goes about describing things, or getting into discussions, getting into the uncomfortable discussions, picking apart a troll is an art form. when this
It
guy does
certainly
it.
can
It
be.
it is the most amazing thing. So I enjoyed it, and just that whole aspect of that community. That would be the first community I ever really, I guess, dove in on. I've chatted once or twice in a couple other places. You know, I've chatted with you know, in other communities like on Towley streams, on Hunter streams, things like that. But I've never actually like spent prolonged time and started to get to know some of the people in a community. My first one was definitely In Control. I think the second was actually Hunter Wild and Pixel Monkey.
So for me, it was Tiger Rider, I believe, was the first person that I really kind of spoke up in their community and started to become an active member of the community.
Right. And that's to say, not just that you chatted this one time, but you became like a regular,
Yeah,
active, you know, a
I,
presence that
I,
is
I was
known.
there almost every stream. I was talking a fair amount of the time that I was dog barking in the background. Um, Talking a fair amount of the time that I was there, and eventually became a subscriber when he got partnered. And that was my first experience with the community side of Twitch.
Which everybody, you know, Twitch is really, really good at. Twitch is good at a great many things, but I think that Twitch really excels at selling the culture, right? There's always that the word community, excuse me, almost feels almost like something of a buzzword because everybody talks about this really nebulous kind of mystical ill-defined thing of community. We have this community and that community, or look at our community, and it can mean a lot. And I'm learning now just what that means. You know, just the extent of the different ways that you can define just participation in a community.
Yeah. And so this kind of serves as a very long segue into the topic that we have been talking about, kind of in a veiled way so far. And that is the way broadcasters in the industry, not just on Twitch, but in the industry as a whole, see their viewers and treat their viewers.
Okay.
And a lot of the times, you know, you see that interaction in a very positive light. You know, they're thanking their community for support. They're saying how grateful they are for all the people that are viewing their channel and whatever it happens to be. But there can also be a negative side to it from both the broadcaster's point of view and the viewer's point of view. One of the things that I want to kind of bring up immediately is a tweet from a broadcaster whose name escapes my memory right now because this was from like months ago, and it's probably for the best. I don't want to stir up any trouble or anything by pointing out a specific person as either, you know, a good or bad example.
Right, no, we're gonna get to rap battles if you start naming people. This is gonna
Yeah.
get bad. There's gonna be diss tracks. But then, you know, hell, if YouTube has taught me anything, is if somebody makes a diss track about this podcast, we're going platinum.
Oh yeah. But to kind of, I guess, paraphrase, because I don't remember the exact wording, this broadcaster said that people need to stop referring to their communities as friends and as family, because that is tricking the communities, the viewers, into supporting the broadcasters in a dangerously loyal way.
I get that. I've never seen that. I've never ever seen that tweet, obviously.
That's probably for the best.
But I've heard a variant of that logic, of that
Yeah.
that argument in the past.
Now, I won't say that that point of view is wrong. And, you know, I am in no position to say that.
Yeah,
But I
everybody's
will
entitled to
say,
their opinion, right?
I will say that my opinion differs greatly. viewers, and I'm speaking as a viewer at this point, viewers can absolutely be friends with the broadcaster. They can absolutely
Yes.
be close enough to the point where they're treated as family with that broadcaster. Look at Hunter and myself as an example. Now, I understand cherry picking, not everything is going to be the same in this scenario, but I started out just as a random lurker in his channel. And, 4 years later, people have literally referred to us as a married couple.
Well, I mean, they're not super far from. There's some legalities involved, and there's some other there's
yes.
paperwork, but outside of that, I mean, sure.
But I mean, as an example, I'm someone that was and is a viewer. We have the type of environment where we foster those relationships within the community, not just for viewers to kind of see each other that way, but for us to see them that way as well.
Yeah.
We make an effort to learn about you and to care about you, to know what's going on in your life, what's affecting you, and we like to talk about that. And that's a big focal point of our community as a whole. So for a broadcaster to say that viewers shouldn't be treated that way really kind of sheds a light on how big of a difference there is between not just the communities on this platform, but the broadcasters themselves, and how they treat their communities and what they expect out of those communities.
Right. Well, I'll come out and say it's an ignorant statement. I mean, look, it's a purely ignorant statement. It's when I see things like that, when I see statements like that being made, I ask myself, I don't even ask what is, especially if I disagree with it, I won't be like, the hell's wrong with you? I ask, why would somebody come to this conclusion? Like, what is the motivation? There's a whole, we can go down this tangent rabbit hole about the psychology of Twitch and why you see it such a almost a trope where broadcasters they're like, we always are so fucking thankful. Well, the good ones, let's put it that way, the humble ones, the ones that are not arrogant pricks, the unentitled, are constantly thanking the community for every sub, for every follow, for every bit of support, regardless if it's just lurking silently in a chat room versus being a massive member of the community, donating financially, subscribing, buying merchandise, evangelizing the channel, that sort of thing. I mean, there's lots of different degrees of involvement in the community. Like I said, I'm not going to get too deep into the psychology of that. I think that to just skim it a bit, because it's percolating in my head now, I think it has a lot to do with like a cultural, psychological thing where there's not I don't see a whole lot of really high self-esteem people that get into this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Celebrity, or what celebrity is, like the people who were doing Vine, before that imploded and things of that nature. Celebrity was something that you did not imagine you were ever going to have. That is not typical. So when suddenly you are faced with a little bit of celebrity, wow, people actually want to listen to this podcast. People, want to have conversations with me. They appreciate, the discourse, or they like the content that you're producing. They find it entertaining or attractive or whatever the hell the case may be. It's a boost. It feels good. So you immediately want to say thank you. Thank you for, you made my brain feel good feelings. Now there's like dopamine and all these happy chemicals and shit. But as far as the original statement goes, it's interesting to me. Somebody would probably say that because I can't give a definitive, but the only theory that I have is they feel insecure about their own content, or they feel insecure about their own agency, if I want to be real specific, because that's the meat of it. You want to cut to the heart of it. You see this a lot like on Kotaku. If I go into the comments section of Kotaku and they did an article on anybody on Twitch, the first goddamn comment you're gonna see is people watch video games. I'm like, motherfucker, you're on a video game website reading about it. Okay, but I digress. It's just this whole like. There's also this divestment thing, and I know I'm going all tangential. I'm jumping from branch to branch, but
it's all connected.
Right. It's almost like if you make money doing something on stream, then it's bad. It's got a negative connotation, not to everyone, right? But it's like, if I refer to my community as family or I refer to them as friends, because that what you said was absolutely true. I agree with you 100%. There are channels like Ninjas and whatnot where there's thousands of people and it's a stadium. I don't know the guy. The guy's not going to talk to me, but I will become friends with people in that community, right? And I'm sure there are some members in that community that are very close to him, or like Lyric and things. I'm trying to think of like really big holy shit streamers, right? And then you have like the much tighter knit, it's the difference between going to a football game and then you got your mid-range where you're going to like, a sports bar, and then I'm going to my buddy's house to go, watch TV or binge something on Netflix or whatever. There's varying degrees of how intimate the environment can be because there's so few people there. So each individual has a much bigger impact in that channel.
And I think a lot of that can be by design as well.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, and there's a lot of selling to it too, right? I mean,
there is, yeah.
They've done the numbers. Smaller channels and more intimate groupings get a much, much higher conversion rate if you want to attack it from the business standpoint. Like, it's 3,000+% more conversion rate per capita, like per person, than in like the big blast streams.
Yeah, and if you're the type of broadcaster that doesn't see their community as friends and family, that's fine if you're not treating it kind of in a hostile manner.
Right.
If your community is that way by design, more power to you. You're making the broadcast that you wanted to make. That's fantastic. A+. But if you're using that as kind of in the example that I used with the tweet, in a way to almost put down other communities, because either you don't feel secure about your own, or you just don't think the platform as a whole should be treated that way, that's when you get into the territory of you shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
You shouldn't be putting that hostile, negative connotations out in a public space.
Yeah, it's toxic.
It is. And the biggest problem with that isn't necessarily the attitude or the broadcaster or the broadcaster specific community, but people that might be thinking about kind of getting into the space might see that, and that single tweet, that single sentence can either completely warp their view of the entire platform and make them approach it in that same hostile way, or it might just turn them away entirely. So you have to be really careful about the way you present these opinions and ideas. You can do it in a way that is constructive. You can do it in a way that says, this is my view of it. Others may differ. That's okay. That's a great way to present it if you have an opposing opinion.
Right.
But when you do it in a way that's almost totalitarian in a way.
Well, yeah. It's like it's almost there's people that do like the whole it's the ownership of viewers, that sort of thing, which is a whole nother. I'm sure we're gonna get into it in a few moments, right? But then there's also the hey, listen, potential Twitch viewer. I am also a Twitch viewer. Listen, they're gonna trick you into being loyal. They're gonna trick you into supporting them and giving them money. You don't have to. You can get it for free. Just don't fall for their tricks. And it's just like that fucking mentality infuriates me because it leads to this idea of like, okay, so God, I can't even articulate it. It's frustrating as hell, you know? Because we're not tricking anybody. We don't. Some people panhandle. Some people ask, you know. And in my weaker moments when I've had like a financial struggle, like, hey man, I gotta stop because my hardware broke, and then somebody out of nowhere is like, here you go, here's new hardware. At which point I am just full of Catholic guilt, you know. But it's nobody. I don't think anybody out there that is successful at broadcasting is literally, you know, saying like, hey, I need you to give me money. You know, it doesn't happen because that does not fucking go over well, specifically with the gaming community at large. Yeah. We hate being nickeled and dimed. You know, if we can get a free ride, we're going to take it.
We seem to give into it on the regular.
Right. It's like, well,
not to go down that.
Yeah, no, we're not going to talk
to get my jabs in there every once in a while.
Right on.
You know, I'm a part of it. I get jabbed with this just as much as you guys do.
Right on. Give me one hot sec. I need to open the door for my daughter. I'm not even going to stop the recording. This is the one take because my kids leave their.
I'm just going to keep talking while you're doing that.
Great, fantastic, wonderful, professional, all-star, platinum, gold, 100% premium podcast.
Great. Is he done? I can still kind of hear him.
Yes.
Okay, he's done. The problem with presenting that opinion in a way that
this right here.
He's not done.
This is why. I mean, I don't even have my earbuds in, so I can't hear you talking. But all right, now I'm good. This is why we're not big time. This is why.
Let's just, you know, I will advise you not to view that part of the. I said a few things. No, I'm kidding.
No, you should just don't cut it out. Okay, it'll be great.
No, I'm not going to cut it.
It'll be so meta. I'm doing air quotes if you're listening.
So, kind of back on the topic, the problem with presenting that opinion in a way that says, you know, these broadcasters are tricking you into supporting them, because that is literally what this guy said in the tweet.
Right, but that's the meat of that statement. Yeah. No matter how dog whistly fucking subtle they're trying to be about it, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, and it's literally the word that they used was trick.
Oh, well, that guy's not even being subtle.
The problem with that is it turns it into an us versus them type of scenario, where it's not, you know, us, me and my community versus them in their community. It's us broadcasters versus them viewers. Right. And on a platform where viewers are literally the thing that keeps it existing, that is such a dangerous road to go down.
Right. It's interesting too, because even talking about it, it's there is a line that needs to be towed. There needs to be, obviously, some division between viewership and broadcaster, simply for the health of the broadcaster and the health of the viewer, right?
Yeah.
Because that, like the last the last conversation we had on the podcast, some of those parasocial relationships, you know, where like a viewer gets in and they just kind of like get in this cycle, and they're like, oh, this is my best friend. I know everything about you. I follow everything. Your Instagram. I've seen your family, your pets, your shit, you know? And so I can see how there needs to be a division, obviously, but it doesn't need to be divisive. It doesn't need to be, like you said, like an us versus them, like the other. You know, there's already enough misconceptions where it used to be, until everybody and their mother started doing it. Like, I remember this. I remember long before the affiliate thing, people would stream on Twitch, and there was this conception that, like, oh, you're a streamer, and you're getting subs, and you're getting all these sub bombs, and these massive, you know, sub trains, and these donation trains. You must be driving a Ferrari. You must be living in a mansion, making billions of fucking dollars, playing video games, you know, sitting on your ass doing nothing. Because we celebrate, you know, those big giant nights with tons of subs and followers and donations and whatnot. We tweet those. Okay.
That guy's driving a Ferrari.
Yeah, I was gonna say that guy's driving. There goes fucking Ninja right there. He's actually in Canada. No, it's like you have this idea of, oh, you know, I'm gonna celebrate all the good times. You don't see people tweeting like, "Hey, good stream today. Got no followers. Lost 2 subs, and I got like 3 chargebacks, and I just lost like $500 out of it." Nobody tweets that shit.
Exactly.
Right.
And you know, for good reason. Do you really want to go watch a broadcast that focuses on the negativity?
Right.
Nobody's gonna have a good time. It's just gonna be a hub for depression.
Right, and that was the, and which is totally acceptable. Not that it's a hub of depression, but you know that it could have been. But so there's that ideal, right? That misconception of the streamer was this on his pedestal thing. Then everybody started streaming, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody became an affiliate. You know, raising my hand, and then you realize like, shit, this is hard. And I really have this is one thing that King Gathalion said. I always reference him and Bro and a bunch of other people. These are like the ones I lurk in the most. He said one thing a long time ago. I was watching before I started streaming. I watched a lot of like streaming 101 stuff, and a lot of Brotato, a lot of everybody. And it was one of those like, there is nothing that you can do. There is absolutely no direct agency that you as a broadcaster have to make people tune into your channel. You can advertise it. You can offer rewards, which will break your bank. You can do just about anything. It is not a guarantee that you will get viewership, you will get growth, and that you will prosper. It's just one of those, like, you do the best you can, and you understand that you're gonna have ups and downs. As far as so anyway, back to the point at hand. I feel like the gap, if you will, between viewership and broadcaster, as far as understanding goes, got really, really shorter. Like, people know now that a streamer isn't an other. It's just it's a person just like you and me. They have a day job, most of them. You know, it's a struggle bus every fucking day. If you're off stream for 3 days, it's like the internet thinks you died. So you know, subs drop off like crazy. Heaven forbid you have a life event, you know, like getting married, having kids, moving, anything like that. Unless you are actively live tweeting every single step of what you are doing. Like, I see the head, #baby day, you know, something like that.
Live stream your wedding. It'll be
great. You're going to IRL stream, which I think has been done. I'm pretty fucking sure.
I think it has too.
Right, so it's just like, unless you are constantly doing that, it's gonna... You're gonna fall off a bit. You're gonna suffer for it. But
yeah, and that kind of harkens back to something that I think we touched on in a previous episode, where it's not just a job or a career; it's a lifestyle.
Yeah,
because it has to be. And now we've kind of covered the opinion of close-knit personal relationships within a community. But that isn't the only valid view of that kind of position of a broadcaster either. You know, you have every time I get on a tangent, fucking
okay.
Shit.
That's why I'm sipping water.
You have people that are, like, say, esports streamers. These are people that cannot read their chats. They cannot interact with their communities while they're broadcasting, because it's esports. You can't look away from the screen. You don't have that luxury of time.
Yeah.
And, you know, they treat their communities in a completely different way, in that, as I just said, they can't interact with them when they're on stream. Now, I have noticed an influx in esports players and teams kind of upping the interaction with their communities on other platforms like Twitter and Facebook and stuff. And that makes me incredibly happy to see.
Right.
But, you know, they have to approach that broadcaster-viewer relationship in a very different way than, say, a variety caster does, or an FPS caster, or whatever it happens to be. And just because they don't have that level of interaction on Twitch or Mixer or whatever it happens to be, doesn't mean that they don't have that relationship with their community.
Well, they absolutely do. It's interesting that you even brought up, because take a look at Critical Role with Matthew Mercer and the D&D and all the voice actors and celebrities and stuff. They're not reading chat. It's a show. Esports is a show, and you see those communities. It's like you have viewership that is, you know, your ride or die viewership, man. They're gonna be there. They're gonna hang out with you all the time, and they were there from the beginning. They're gonna be there to the very end. Those are your closer knit, like what you've got going on with Hunter, man. These are the people that are essentially there because they want to be a friend, right? That's the kind of relationship they are seeking. That is the kind of engagement that they want. And as far as esports, or even the Critical Role thing and whatnot, where you have shows that are more of a show and less of a whatever the hell, like a meetup, a get together. I can't even describe what some of the community based channels are. I don't think there's a word for it just yet. But they'll still engage, like you said, they'll engage with them on Twitter. They'll go to they'll take pictures with them when people cosplay their characters, you know, at PAX or TwitchCon or Games or fucking QuakeCon and so on and so forth. There's so many different conventions. SakuraCon, DragonCon, and so forth. So, and then you've got your scheduled ones, right? There's like people that they come home from work. I mean, this is something a lot of viewers told me. It's like, dude, I come home from work and I put on your stream as I'm making food for myself and getting out of my suit, and then I kind of just chill because I know you're gonna be on at this. It's like watching their favorite show. It's like the before Netflix era, you know, where there was a certain sense of comfort. It's like, I got out of school, I can turn on Toonami on Cartoon Network and watch, you know, so and so, because this is the 90s apparently. But yeah, there was that security, right? There was that sense of, this is something I can count on. It's not going to let me down. It's going to be on there. It's my thing. So there is viewership, I think, that falls into that category, that they don't really care so much that you're engaging them, but they care that you're doing your thing. You're doing your job. You're doing esports well. You're playing the game well. You're making the plays. Yep. And they're talking with other people in chat, right? It's less about the viewer and more about the community. It's more about the other people that are there watching as well. So
yeah, and there are broadcasts that are specifically constructed in that way,
right?
Where the interaction doesn't come from broadcaster to viewer; it comes from viewer to viewer while they're watching the broadcaster.
Yeah,
you know, there's some scenarios where the actual person playing the game almost has nothing to do with the community.
Oh, that's happened to me in the past, actually, where people weren't even. There's sometimes where they'll comment on what they're seeing, the gameplay, and that'll be the subject of conversation. Yep. And other times I've seen chat scrolling in the past, and I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Oh, you are not talking about anything that I'm fucking doing, huh? Or me. Okay. Because you got to learn that lesson that it's not all about you, but that's a whole other subject.
That's why I hesitated to say that the opinion behind the tweet that I used as an example earlier, I hesitated to say that it was a wrong opinion, because it doesn't have to be a wrong opinion. You know, if you want to present yourself and your broadcast in such a way where you're not there to make friends, you're not there to make those close connections, you're just there to play the game and broadcast it on this platform, that's where it starts and stops. That's fine. You can have a broadcast like that. If it's working out for you and it's what you want, thumbs up. That's fantastic. Right. You have achieved your goal. Just don't present it in a way that tries to knock down other communities or bash other broadcasters.
Right. It's a broad stroke. It's saying all broadcasters on Twitch, broadcasters in general. It's an that's why I said it was ignorant, because it was a generalization.
Yes.
You know, and I'll be honest, I watch esports players. I watch Grubby, who is big in Heroes of the Storm, and Warcraft 3, and he is the most personable, calm, collected, family friendly, entertaining person. He's just such a tempered, chill person. And he engages with his chat regularly, constantly. Even during a match, he'll take a few moments and comment on something in chat. So it's like even the whole aspect of like, you can have one or the other. No, it can all exist. All these different
Yep.
definitions that we're touching on can all exist in the same chat room, in the same stream, in the same session, if you want to call it. Like the 4 to 12 to 14-hour long stream session can have all of these elements almost at the same time. Because I mean, the only way it makes sense to me, I think Bad News Baron, was it Baron or was it Mike the Bard that tweeted out a bunch of pictures a couple months ago with like, here's a crowd of 10 people. This is representative of the 10 people in chat, of 30, of 50, of 100. And when you can visualize it in something that makes sense to our human monkey brains, you know, instead of just numbers, it's really kind of alarming to think, man, you can't be super engaging. And the fact that a lot of broadcasters, like the way Hunter is engaging with people in chat when he's got 200, 300, 600 people in his chat, I'm just like, I'm fucking floored. I'm flabbergasted. It's incredible. Think about that. That is just 600 people, 300 people. That is such a large number of bodies all talking at the same time in like a giant room. You know, having to focus in on that is hard, but it's beautiful.
And you know that continuing with the example of Hunter. I love making an example of Hunter.
Does he listen to this, by the way?
I don't know.
Oh, you should just spam him. I mean, he's not going to reply, but you should spam him like 100 times. Like, yeah, I'm talking about you. Here you go.
I'm always talking about him. But continuing with that example, you know, he can have that level of interaction because that's the way that's the foundation that he laid for his stream when he started it, and that's how we have constructed it together from that point.
Right.
To have those relationships and have that interaction where, you know, what's happening on screen is pretty much secondary to the community and the interaction with the community. And, you know, that's the outlook that we have. That's not necessarily the outlook that other people are going to have, and it is certainly not the outlook that everybody should have. Because, you know, if you have everybody treating their community in the exact same way, then you lose the diversity on
Right.
Twitch that made it what it is right now.
Right.
You know, you have to have those spaces for the people that just want to lurk. You have to have those spaces for the people that just want to watch esports, for the people that want to have those relationships with other people in the community or with the broadcaster. That's what makes the platform of Twitch and Mixer and YouTube and Facebook Live. It's a thing.
You cringed so hard, I thought your face was going to cramp up when you said Facebook Live.
I have my reservations, but that's what makes these platforms what they are. You know, there's spaces for everybody in the industry, everybody involved with it, not even just games, because it's so much more than games now. Having those places for people to go to find what they want in the interaction or lack of interaction is key. And presenting an opinion or an idea in a way that limits or splits, diversifies those micro communities within this large community is so incredibly harmful.
Yeah,
And
it's very small-minded.
yeah, there's no reason to present your opinions and ideas that way when you can present them in a way that's going to be beneficial not just for you but for everybody else as well. Why go down that other route? What's the goal there?
That's why I say it's short-sighted, and I mean, I'm trying to think, like, what would the goal be for that? I think it's just, I don't think there is a goal. I think it's just a venting or a manifestation of insecurity in either oneself or in one's content or something of that nature. Because I got to think about it, right? It's the people that claim that women showing cleavage are stealing their viewers. Like, first off, the viewers aren't yours. You don't own them. You don't pay them. If you pay them and they're going somewhere else, then that's a different story.
If you pay your viewers, I'm pretty sure that's against TOS.
Yeah, right. First off, you got bigger problems. And second off, fuck, dude, you're paying them and you're so garbage they want to go somewhere else. But that's just a low blow. It's very telling of individuals who are, you know, and there's some of them that are really just kind of toxic people that are, you know, entitled, and they have their demons, they have their shit they got to work at, they got their therapy sessions, right? But then you'll see I've seen people that I respect, that I know, that I've gotten to know in person even as well, and they will make a statement like that, and
Yeah.
I know that statement comes from a place of frustration.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from brick walling or hitting that ceiling over and over and over again, and just kind of your brain, in order to not make you depressed, will try to find excuses, will try to find reasons as to why the bad thing is happening.
Yeah.
And then you scapegoat it, right?
And I'll concede that the person that I've been using as an example, I don't follow them on Twitter. I never have. I don't watch their broadcast or anything. So this may very well have just been a one-off tweet.
Right.
It could have been just them having an off day, which we all have.
Yeah.
And saying something that wasn't necessarily articulated in the way that they meant it to be. That is entirely possible, and I would not hold it against this person if that were the case. But you know, I continue to use the example because whether it was intended that way or not, the wording was in such a way that it created that diversion that we just don't need.
Well, yeah, it's finding a reason, a rationale, or an excuse for a thing that was done that was harmful or malignant in any way, shape, or form doesn't change the nature of what the effect was. It's kind of like when a comedian makes a joke and somebody gets offended, and the comedian's like, "I didn't mean to offend you." It doesn't really matter. The dude's still offended at that point. You know, it's out there, right? It's the quote unquote damage has been done, and I'm not even going to get into the politics or anything of being offended. But it's, well, I want to key in on something that you mentioned when you were talking about how there's got to be a place for these communities, for people to gather together. And the first thing that popped in my head is I mean, we've been doing this since the beginning of recorded history, right? Like, we as people, Western culture, Eastern cultures, human beings in general, let's go back to the Cro-Mag days, used to gather around a fire and entertain each other, tell stories. And then it was, you know, gathering around around like a bard or a scholar or a skald or something, and learning stories and being entertained and passing that shit down. Listening to radio broadcasts back when radio, you know, was like the only thing you could do. Then it was.
Hey, I still listen to radio on the regular.
I listen to radio too every time I'm in the car, but you know what I mean. And then there's like viewing parties, right? People want to get together whenever Game of Thrones comes back and like, hey guys, we're all gonna watch Game of Thrones season premiere together, and then everybody gets it together at the house, and they watch a show, and then they talk about it. It's Twitch, it's the internet, it's what happened to my generation, technically your generation to a degree, where it's like we used to all go to each other's houses to play video games together, and when we grew up and moved away or got careers or changed towns or anything of that nature, those relationships suffered. Now they don't have to. We can still continue that ritual, that practice of coming together, either playing something together, watching something together, engaging in some form of medium that we enjoy. And that's kind of the evolution of Twitch. I think that's why Twitch exists, right? So the statement that you've been calling out, the reason that it sticks with me is, and why I called it ignorant, is it's like, dude, you know, don't do that. Why would you? It's disrespectful of this amazing inevitable, unstoppable force of a thing that is, like live content, live, non pre-recorded, long form or short form, kind of like ad hoc content. It's everybody getting together. A lot of my earlier viewers were fucking deployed military that just happened to fall into that time zone, and they wanted to have somebody around them talking in English that wasn't in the military. So it's just real interesting what we've got going on with Twitch, and it's disappointing when you see people kind of, say things like that guy.
I do understand that there can be a bit of a danger in making that space for every type of person, wherein, if you create a space for toxic people, then that toxicity is going to kind of spread out from that space.
Right.
Which, yes and no. I mean, it really depends on the type of community that's constructed. You can have a group of people that are, assholes. Let's put it that way. They're assholes to each other and to the people around them. But that same community can keep that contained within that community. It doesn't necessarily have to spread to wherever they go. If that's their spot to go in there and, treat each other like dirt, that's their spot to do that. If they don't take it out of that spot, if they don't bring it with them, then, there isn't necessarily that harm of it spreading. Now, I'm not saying we should create space for these people.
Right.
That's a whole different discussion.
You're on thin ice, man. You're trying to articulate. I get what you're saying. I'm
you gotta play devil's advocate in these scenarios, because you can't just approach it from a single point of view. We can't go into this saying every community should have these tight, happy relationships, because that can be just as harmful as saying every community should not have those types of relationships.
Absolutely. You can't villainize.
Trying to restrict it to a single point of view or a single outlook, no matter that point of view or outlook, is inherently harmful. You're kind of squashing the ability for people to be themselves.
Right.
And now you have to have some common decency.
Yeah.
But, we should still have the type of space where people don't have to be afraid to approach it in such a way that makes them comfortable. Right. And there should be spaces for people to be comfortable in.
Right. I mean, I agree with your point, obviously, because if not, I would have yelled at you. But it really is like you don't want to say outright, I want to make room for people where it will be okay for them to be toxic assholes and they can proliferate, like bacteria, and they can fester and they can just kind of whatever, as long as they're contained. That kind of partitioning is kind of what happens now, right? Because you want to mold, right? I feel that a community is typically a reflection of the broadcaster. I've watched people on stream. I've watched clips, let me be very specific, of people that are like this one broadcaster, he's playing Overwatch or whatnot, and he gets disconnected from the match. He's got like 80 goddamn emotes unlocked. He's big, massive, big deal broadcaster, super successful, complete asshole.
Yeah.
Just the most disgusting filth. Like, not even like in a cheeky, oh, this is funny, look how, no, like just really being just a garbage person and screaming like a petulant child. And all I can think in my head, because of my own neurosis, I internalize it and I go, fuck, man, that guy's a complete prick. Look how good he's doing.
Yeah,
like there's got to be, there's got to be something to feed into that. So,
yeah.
I mean, I get what you're saying. The obvious goal is hopefully to get everybody everybody in the world to not be as douchey or as toxic as some of the people are on Twitch, but to quarantine, right? To quarantine others, or to just be really overtly divisive in your statements and in the dog whistles and what you're doing that's very kind of like to mold the community marginalizes somebody, right?
Yeah.
Like for every safe space, there is like a bunch of people that are going to find their own place to cloister and be together to bash and hate. And then we get the whole tribalism thing, right? Then we're back to us versus them. You have the fucking cultural landscape of America right now, right? There's people who are this and there's people who are that. And it's like, I think Twitch is like a microcosm of it, you know, because we've been on the internet for how many years now? Like, you know, at 20, me. Yeah. I think the internet came around when I was 14. Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to think. AOL. Okay. Yeah. So about 20 years. We've had 20 years of learning how to deal with trolls. We've had 20 years of learning how to deal with people talking crap and people being divisive. And we kind of know how to manage it or get around it. Not everybody knows how to do that anymore.
Yeah. And it's going to change from generation to generation, you know, because we essentially grew up without the internet. We came into it when it was first being born, essentially, and the generation after us, you know, they grew up with internet. They grew up always being online.
They had the series of tubes.
It's gonna have a very different impact on the way they have their interactions online. I sound like a fucking old man now.
You are. It's all good. I think we're all aging really fucking quickly.
Yeah. So it's not gonna be about a single solution or a single approach that's gonna, you know, quote unquote solve these problems, because it can't be that way, because everything's changing so quickly and so often. But taking steps to get to a point where we can have a large community, a large platform where everybody has a comfortable space within that platform is going to go a long way. Are we ever going to actually reach the point where everyone has a comfortable space? I don't think so.
Nah, doubtful.
But that doesn't mean we can't strive for it, because the steps we take to strive for it are going to improve the interactions and improve the way we present ourselves to each other in such a way where, you know, maybe the next generation isn't just going to be full of a bunch of trolly assholes that think they can hide behind anonymity or whatever it is. The next generation won't have broadcasters that formulate their communities around toxicity. All it takes is a few, you know, people making that effort to push in that direction, and it's going to have a noticeable impact. And broadcasters are in a point where they can mold their communities to reflect those values.
Right.
They can reflect their own values. And it's up to them to do that responsibly.
I agree 100%. You know, at the end of the day, streaming is still a very, very, it's like, it's still, I consider it still being like in its nascency right now. Twitch is an infant, right?
Yep.
Twitch is the first iteration. Like if go back to the AOL joke that I made, and, you know, or reference that I fucking made. The first internet thing that everybody had was like Netscape and fucking AOL and God, I can't even think of another one. Mind something. Anyway, like Twitch is the first. There's gonna be something else, or it's going to change in some way, shape, or form to evolve. I think people in general are just, it's going to be a totally different scene when my kids, right? I look at the cartoons they're watching versus what I watched. You know, I'm looking at the different things that people in chat are caring about, that they're interested in, and what they say and what they do. So, I mean, I've got hope. I've got hope things will be all right. I think that as far as to kind of come full circle, we're coming up on time now, but as far as viewership, there is no direct single one definition of viewership. There are innumerable, and I say that because something else comes up and becomes a thing. You know, next week there'll be something else, right? There'll be a new definition or a new kind of channel or a new kind of category or whatever it is. So as far as viewership and how streamers treat viewers and how they categorize, I think that's the word I want to use for it. Their viewers or subs, if you're a YouTuber or whatever it is that you've got going on, that needs to be paid very, very close attention to. Specifically, if you're going to start spouting stuff out on the internet, you're going to pop off on Twitter or socials or anything like that, because there's a lot of us now, and like you said, that worry that the new person who just got their Amazon Prime account and they thought, oh man, what is Twitch? Every box that I order from Amazon now has Twitch on it. Even if I'm not ordering anything technological or video game related or anything like that, I'm ordering my dog's fucking Greenies dog treats. And not sponsored, not ad.
Although if you want to,
right,
my dog loves your treats.
Right, straight up. Every morning she brushes her teeth. But, it's like, it says, have you tried Twitch Prime? And I imagine somebody is looking at that and they're like, the fuck is Twitch? And then they go look it up and they get into it and they immediately think, oh, wait, hold on. You guys are trying to get money from me? It just becomes this weird cycle of, I don't know how to explain it. It's bizarre. Nobody scoffs, by the way. A perfect analog somebody made to me a long time ago. What a Twitch broadcaster is somebody who's like busking on the streets. Like a Twitch broadcaster is equivalent to like that dude in a kilt playing the bagpipes that shoots fire out of it, and people throwing money in his box or whatever. Yeah, that's kind of what we do to a certain degree. Yeah. That's one of the things we do. Much more than that, but that's one of the things we do. Sure, that's kind of the primary way that we make income, is by the generosity of other people who want to support. Unless you are selling merchandise, unless you're doing sponsored content, things like that, and then at which point you're leveraging. It comes back to how entertaining you are, right? Leverages to your influence. That's why they call us influencers for whatever the hell reason. So it's just a very interesting dynamic that we have going on between viewership and broadcaster, and you can't paint anybody with the same brush, man. Everything has got to be treated differently, and you have to also understand, in some channels, you have everything. You have the lurkers, the schedule people, the community people, the new ones that just saw you for the first time, the ones that are giving you $100,000, the ones that are giving you $0. It's all chaos.
Yep. So we are approaching time here, so I just have kind of one final thought.
Hit me.
Myself. Broadcasters specifically, as Spoon mentioned, you are referred to as influencers, and for very good reason. Your words have that potential to reach hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes millions of people, and that is very powerful. And you need to understand the responsibility that comes with that, and you need to be able to articulate the things that you say in such a way where you're being mindful of that responsibility and that reach of your words and your power and your influence, because it can have a very dramatic impact on a single person or hundreds of people or whatever that reach is. And those words that you're spouting, either on stream or on Twitter or whatever social platform it is, are going to shape the future of this industry. Yep. They very literally are going to shape the future of this industry. And you have to understand when to temper those highly emotional opinions that you have at times. We all have those opinions at times, but there has to be some level of control there. There is an inherent value in being blunt and straightforward at times, but just remain mindful of that impact that you have within your community and within the industry.
I agree 100 goddamn %. It shouldn't take backlash. It shouldn't take you getting called out or you starting some drama and then having to make an apology video for you to be mindful of what you say.
Yep.
Just, it really shouldn't get there. And you should learn from the examples of people around you, other influencers, broadcasters, YouTubers, people in this general sphere of what we do, you know, getting caught with like really, really, really problematic bad shit that they were putting out there. And then they gotta like issue an apology, and it's this nasty, muddy mess. Don't just learn from that shit, you know?
Yep.
And if you think that everything you're saying is totally good and you're not doing anything wrong, then there really is no getting through. So, you know, keep doing what you're gonna do, and hope it works out at the end.
Yep. There are examples all around you. Use them. So that is going to do it for, I believe, episode 4 of the Press Pause podcast,
which we recorded on a Thursday in the late afternoon.
Thursday, yes,
and it should be out hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be out in like 16, 17 hours from now, something around there.
Probably take that long to edit and update. I mean, to edit and upload, it'll probably take that long to do it.
I'm going to do it the moment it's in my hands, so hopefully we release on time. But speaking of release, we do release in video format on Twitch, on Spoonersloth's channel, which is twitch.tv/Spoonersloth.
Correct.
And we also release in audio format on Google Play, Spotify, iTunes, and a variety of other platforms, actually, even on your Amazon Echo device. So the goal there is to make it available to anyone and everyone.
At any time.
At any time.
And remember, please, by all means, the best way to reach us is at Twitter. So twitter.com/Spoonersloth would be for myself, or at Spoonersloth for me. HP Fox is HP Fox TV. Still?
Yes. I hate the little TV, but I have to have it because some jerk took my name.
Right on.
And if you're contacting us on Twitter, don't forget to use the hashtag PressPausePodcast. That is absolutely the easiest way for us to find anything and everything that you say related to the show.
All right, that about does it for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to educate and engage in some pretty good discourse here, talking about all things Twitch, all things business, gaming, technology, pop culture, sociology. We're kind of like really delving into the psychological stuff the last couple of streams.
we kind of touch on everything, and that's good. And for you guys that are listening or watching, if at any point you have a differing opinion, or you think something we have said is asinine, or you agree with it or whatever, hop on Twitter, use that hashtag, tell us. It's kind of the aim of these discussions is to explore all these different viewpoints with kind of a sound mind.
Yeah, we want to avoid the echo chamber. Best way to do that is to get more voices in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So that about does it for us. I am Spoonersloth.
I am HB Fox.
And we'll see you guys next time.